So, I am Brent. I'm a faculty in the Department of Biomedical and Nutritional Sciences, and I'm going to tell you about assessing opportunities tonight. But we are also going to get to hear from Shortland. He is a faculty. I waited right until he was eating something. Very well timed, right? He's faculty in the psychology department, correct? All right. And we also have Mike Marai here, and he is, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yeah, that's good.
All right, and he is faculty in computer science. So, let's get started. So tonight you are here for Workshop 2, and Workshop 2 is about assessing opportunities and value propositions. So what did you do in Workshop 1? What was the purpose of Workshop 1? Yeah, you just yell stuff at me. Way easier. Yeah, further developing your ideas. So we're going to do a little bit of that today. We're going to help you to figure out what the particular opportunity is and then what value proposition you can offer to that opportunity. So just general reminders that you'll get at every workshop. Your idea plan is due when? March 4th, right? 3-4. So if you log on to the Team Maker on the Difference Maker website, you should be able to submit your idea plan and then modify it once it's submitted. If you have any issues with that, you should contact Difference Maker Central and let them know. So just a reminder, these are our guest speakers tonight. I will be your first one. So our agenda tonight is going to be to recap what you did last time, just to make sure that it all makes sense and that you feel comfortable with it. And then we're going to have everyone do a quick little pitch to tell us what their idea was. Then we'll work through assessing opportunities. We will identify what are going to be the components of your opportunities, what are going to be your competitors, and then we're going to see what your value proposition is, what you have to offer in that market. And then we'll wrap it up, and they'll give you a chance to discuss with any of the faculty that are here, or we even have a former difference maker winner here that you could get some tips from, and he'll speak with us in a bit too. So the first thing is, what was your problem that you wanted to solve last time? Last time you needed to identify a problem and figure out what it was that you wanted to solve. You didn't need a solution yet, you just needed to identify that problem, to figure out who might be affected by that problem so that you could then do something for them. And so tonight we're going to focus a lot more on how significant that problem is to understand if that's a market that you should be getting into, if there's a significant opportunity to be had there, right? And then beyond that, you're going to have to figure out what is your particular solution to that problem and what is the value within that solution. And you may not know everything about it, and so we're going to need to figure out what you don't know about that problem. What is there in that problem that you still need to get more team members for, that you need to work on to solve? And so you need to gather data. That's going to be a big thing tonight, is that you have to get data on what you're going to work on. You need to interview people and discuss with them what their needs are to make sure that you're going to meet their needs, to make a product that they would want. And you'll be able to do a lot of that through library research, but you definitely need to do this through speaking with people. And while we're going through tonight, make sure you're filling out your Difference Maker Toolkit problem worksheet. I think everyone has that. If not, I brought exactly one copy. If someone wants it, I'm willing to share. So, last time you identified your problem, right? So why don't we have some people this time tell us what they identified, what their problem was. You don't have to tell us about your particular solution is. You can give us kind of a general idea of what you want to solve, but we'll have everyone just give a quick, brief, what your problem is. So give us a one-sentence response to each one of these three things up here. What is the problem you will solve? Who do you think is affected by your problem? And then how your solution will solve the problem. You don't have to be real particular about your solution yet. We don't expect you to have it definitely nailed down. Just give us a one-sentence overview of that. All right. We have our first group. They are ready to present. So you can keep working on yours while they tell us what their problem is. I'm going to have you use my lapel mic because I don't have a hand mic to give to you. So introduce yourselves and then let us know.
Hi everyone, my name is Taylor and this is Will here. So our problem is arrhythmogenic right ventricular cardiomyopathy. It's a heart condition that affects, that's asymptomatic in young athletes. So for this reason, it often goes undiagnosed because athletes need to go under stress to know that they have these symptoms. So 1 in 1,000 young athletes from the ages of 5 to 18 experience sudden cardiac death or ventricular fibrillation. And our product will analyze arrhythmias real time for athletes who are undergoing stress or exercise.
That's awesome. Thank you. You sound like you've got a definite problem defined already, and you've got a fairly decent idea about the opportunity that's within that particular market, right? So it sounds like you've already started to do some of your research within that field. That's fantastic. All right, who would like to go next? Don't be worried about it having ventricular cardiomyopathy, right? It's okay.
Brent, you ready?
Yeah, you're ready. All right.
Hello. So the problem that we're trying to solve is there's no cheap, easy-to-use, lightweight system or device for physical therapists to functionally train patients to ambulate in the community safely and successfully. So who we're aiming this towards is any patient in physical therapy who's trying to improve ambulation and go back to walking outside in the community. And then the solution we found is a mat that simulates outdoor terrain.
That's fantastic. You already have experience in that field, so you're aware of what the needs are there, so you've already been doing research on it just by getting education on it, right? You're already invested. That's wonderful. All right, who would like to go next? Yeah, absolutely. You got it memorized, you don't have to hold it up, don't worry. I always get real uncomfortable when people hold up their laptops. I'm going to drop it. I'm just holding it.
So, the problem is people lack the skills or the tools to perform their own improvements, spending up to 5% of their own value for the lifetime. So, this is targeted towards lower to middle class homeowners, and trying to solve it by providing virtual platform for people to learn the skills they need to perform their home repairs and get the tools that they need in order to use them.
That sounds wonderful. It sounds like a great alternative to somewhat shady YouTube videos of someone showing you how to do something that they're not 100% sure that they know how to do yet, but they can edit it together in a really convincing manner, right? All right. That's a thing. All right. One more group. We'll do both of you. All right, who'd like to go first? All right. They got the you can go first. All right. It's just a microphone. It's pretty attached. I can hold that for you.
Hello, my name is Nafiz, and my project is called Robotic Arms and Legs. So the problem is not being able to move or get to where you want to go by yourself. So the people that are affected by it are most likely military veterans, born amputees, or police officers. And the solution will help them to gain mobility, at the same time get to where they want to go in time.
You've clearly identified a problem, and so tonight we'll help you figure out how to find the opportunity within that particular problem set. Awesome. All right. One last group. One last group. Wherever you want.
I don't do the whole visuals thing. Hello, my name is Louis Cherniano. I guess I'm the founder, you would call it, of FAM, which is Financial Action Manager. It's been around for about a year. I explained 2 days ago that we had version 1 out for beta, and we're currently working on development of version 2. So essentially, it's similar to Daily Budget or Mint, which is essentially just a financial management app, like to its bare bone, but we're integrating a social aspect to it, similar to Venmo and MyFitnessPal, if anyone has experience with that. So you'll be able to add friends and watch what they're doing and see what their goals and streaks are of saving, donating, and investing goals. The problem, so looking at this now and thinking about it just off the top of my head, problem is that people don't realize how much money they're going to need down the road. If you look at like inflation rates, $1 million right now is about as much as you need to like very comfortably retire. And if you look in the past versus the future, if inflation rates inflate to the same degree they have since like 1974, which is when we'll retire, if you look at that backwards, $1 million is $15 million down the road. So I don't think anyone, does anyone here think they need $15 million to retire? Raise your hand if you think you need $15 million to retire.
Well, you could be.
Yeah, so, I mean, personally, retiring at just $1 million, like the way of life right now is like great, but it's not ridiculous. It's not as much as people would think. So, to think that 15 is the minimum to be comfortable and like maintain your lifestyle is like ridiculous, but it's reality. And like, if we don't look at reality, then we're gonna get stuck in the past and get run over. So the biggest problem that we have right now is people don't use what they're offered, and Mint worked really well for a bit, but their API, which is how they link to your bank account, got inaccurate when they stopped using a third party and they created their own. So what we're doing is going back to that third party, Plead, which is free trials for development, which we've kind of gained access to through my consultant. And we're gonna bunch all that in with social media. It's gonna be an app that's enjoyable to use. I don't want to say addicting, but my original idea for social media was we're addicted to Facebook if we want to believe it or not, and we should be addicted to financial management, because that would be awesome if we like, instead of having it be terrible and this horrible thing we don't want, like kill the stigma, like let's be rich, it's great. So how will this solution solve the problem? Essentially, you'll want to do it. Like, we don't want to do it right now. Saving sounds bad. There's stigmas of, if we save money, we will have less money in the short term. But you'll have more money in the short term and the long term, which is great. People don't understand that.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Sounds like you've identified a clear problem and you've already got a lot of knowledge about your particular field. So hopefully that gives you an idea, just from listening to those groups, about, first of all, how little money we all have, which is kind of terrifying, but then more importantly is what problems, how to identify a problem and articulate that particular problem. So work on refining down your explanation of your problem so you can get it down to one sentence, one easy to say sentence, one elevator pitch. So tonight what we're going to do is assess opportunities. And to do that, we need to figure out what an opportunity is first. Just how do we define our opportunity? So we need to clarify an opportunity from an idea. So an idea is just something that pops into your head. It's something that you haven't really worked through yet, right? It's something that's unrealized and untested. So I'll just give you an example. I'll have an idea. My idea is that everything should taste like pickles, right? Everything should taste like pickles. I don't know if anyone else wants this to happen, but it's my idea right now, is that everything should taste like pickles. So, is this an opportunity that I potentially could capitalize on? Is making everything taste like pickles worthwhile? Is there going to be a set of circumstances where making everything taste like pickles is going to create a business opportunity for me, where I could make things taste like pickles, and that would make other people want to buy my pickle products, right? So, I think I've discovered a problem here, that the things I eat that aren't pickles don't taste like pickles, as ridiculous as that sounds. So if I did some research on it, I may be able to find that there is a group of people who like for things to taste like pickles, right? Do you think that group of people exists? Right? Yeah. So who thinks those people exist? Yeah, somebody did. There's a pickle flavored toothpaste. It exists. Who would be willing to use pickle flavored toothpaste? There's always one. There is always one person willing to do this. So, because I did this last year and someone raised their hand then too, I tried to buy this on Amazon and they do not have any for sale. Either they have sold all the pickle flavored toothpaste, which is beyond my comprehension, or they no longer make pickled flavored toothpaste, right? I don't know. I would need to do research on it to find out if pickled flavored toothpaste is something there's a market for, right? Is there an opportunity for pickled flavored toothpaste to be sold? If I get some, I'll come back around and let you try it, because I don't want to taste that. I cannot imagine. But it exists. So the idea is untested and unrealized. The opportunity is something that we need to identify and then research to make sure we understand the scope and scale of it. So we need to find what the opportunity gap is and give that some type of quantitative measurement. We need to identify how large it is in terms of a numerical basis, right? So we need to figure out what the gap is, what the missing piece is, what the need is for someone, and understand how big that need is. If you're going to introduce a new product or a new way of doing something, you need to make sure that there's a gap that you're filling in, and that you're filling in that gap appropriately. You both know the scope of it and the magnitude, and then you know how your product would fit in it. You shouldn't assess the opportunity in terms of what you can make and sell. You should just assess the opportunity in terms of what is there. So you assess what is there, and then when you come up with your solution, you can compare what is the gap versus what portion of that you're filling in, right? My idea that I came up with was everything should taste like pickles, but when I make pickled flavored toothpaste, I'm not making everything taste like pickles. I'm just making toothpaste taste like pickles. I'm not filling in all the pickle gap. I'm only filling in the bedtime toothpaste pickle gap, right? So I need to assess the entire scale before I can isolate in the particular gap that I intend to fulfill. So I need to see if I can fulfill this market need, a pain that someone has. Someone wants toothpaste that tastes like pickles, and I'm gonna fill that in. And it's really important that we do that because a lot of people create a product and they don't know if there's a gap that that product fills, right? Here's an example of that. This is an actual US patent. You can look up the patent number to make sure I didn't just make it up. So this is an apparatus for use as a toy by an animal, for example, a dog, to either fetch, carry, or chew, right? Who wants to buy this? Why don't you want to buy this? What is it? It's a stick. Where can you get a stick? Everywhere. We could draw a nice Venn diagram of here's all the dogs, and here's all the places where you can get a stick, right? It shades in quite nicely, and the only gap there is Laika. And does anyone know the dog Laika? That's the dog that the Soviet Union shot into space, right? That is the only dog that couldn't find a stick. So the gap for this is incredibly small, right? There may only be one dog that can't find a stick. So this doesn't seem like the best gap, which is why we've got to research what the gap is. What is the opportunity? What is the potential opening for the market? What are you going to provide that eases some kind of pain? So we need to make sure that we do research on this to identify it. We don't just want to assume what the gap is and hope that we've figured it out, hope that we've guessed correctly. We want to actually get to the market and do some research. So you need to make sure you're getting numbers on this. You're figuring out an actual numerical amount of people or an actual amount of pain that you can fix, right? How many people are affected by the problem? In the example of the stick, not many people would buy that because they can get one for free. In the example of the toothpaste, you would definitely want to figure out how many potential customers really want pickle flavored toothpaste versus something like a regular minty toothpaste, right? You need to figure out who those people are, right? Who in the age group wants that toothpaste? Maybe the first thing you need to do is figure out what age group uses the most toothpaste to see if they'd be your best opportunity, right? Maybe there's a particular gender that would be best suited by your product. Maybe there's a particular income bracket that is best suited by your product. Maybe there's a particular profession that's best suited by your project. So identifying where that gap is, who is affected by that gap is important. Where do they live? Where do they use the product at? right? Maybe where they live at and where they use the product at are different, and so you need to be more concerned with the place where they use it at as the place where they reside, right? Identify what their education level is, because that may give you inferences as to whether or not they're going to be able to afford your solution. Maybe they have that particular pain, but they don't have the means to afford the solution to fix the pain, so they're willing to live with it instead of resolve it. Those are all things we need to assess. Those are all parts of the opportunity. So in this example here, you can see two recipients who received prosthetics from the Enable team, right? So these two people are very happy with the prosthetics they got, right? These two kids look overjoyed with their prosthetics. But when you think about the opportunity here, clearly they are the client that's receiving the service, but do you think that they paid for the prosthetics? No, right? They received the prosthetics, but you need to make sure that you identify who actually would be able to purchase these things or would donate money so that you can gift these products to someone, right? So even though they're the person who's going to use your service, they may not be the person who pays for the service, which is why it's important to understand the opportunity there, because the opportunity is for you to get someone to donate money to provide this. And so that's the opportunity that you need to be able to express to fulfill. You want to provide these clients, but the opportunity can only be there if you have the donors to make it happen. So what we really just need is data, right? Data is the most important thing. To assess the opportunity, we need to get data on what it looks like. Who is this for? What do they do? What is their life like? How many of them are there? What is the scale of your idea? They have something that is their pain, and you're going to ease that pain. Are you going to ease all of it? Or are you going to ease some of it? Are you going to make the problem go completely away, or are you just going to make it better, right? You need to determine what your first customer is going to be. Who's the first person who would be likely to get this? That way you know exactly who you need to market to initially. That's part of your opportunity. The opportunity is also identifying who wants this first versus who would be the later part of the audience who may be interested. So here's some examples, right? These are just examples about some potential opportunity. So let's assume that we wanted to create a smartphone, right? And we needed to know who uses smartphones and who uses smartphones versus tablets. So this just gives us a general overview of demographic data of people who are using smartphones versus tablets. And so we can see that the primary group that we may want to target would be 25 to 34. That would be the biggest opportunity of people who might want our product. So we analyze the market to find that that range may be the largest. It may not be who we end up targeting, but at least then we have scope and scale of who we can target, right? We may just need to narrow that down to, instead of smartphones and tablets, we narrow it down to iPhones. Maybe particularly iPhones is something we're interested in. And we can identify again that that 25 to 34 age bracket is where the largest opportunity exists. That may be where the first customer exists. That may be where the greatest chance we have of getting this to work exists. So let's see a couple teams that have done this in the past. So this is Platelist, and they're developing an app for people with dietary restrictions to find restaurants that suit their needs. They needed to identify if there was a big enough market of people looking for specific dietary needs. And so they assessed the number of people who had particular diseases like diabetes versus celiac disease versus cultural or religious restrictions to what kind of things they may want to include in their diet. They assessed that particular market, both in a national sense and locally as well, because their first customers were going to be local. So they assessed both the overall opportunity and then they assessed the local opportunity. Because that was important, because their first customer was going to be right here, as opposed to just in general across the nation. So they both needed to assess the opportunity on a broad scale and in a narrow scope as well. Here's another team, Etralog. So Etralog is creating a device that's essentially going to unlock your door for you based upon proximity. So it's going to help people who may have issues using a key and a very small mechanism to open their door to instead be able to open their door based upon a proximity system. So they needed to assess people who would want to use this, either for convenience or using it for medical necessity, because it's become uncomfortable or somewhat painful in order to open their door. And so they had to assess that to figure out how many people actually in the age bracket they were concerned with would have discomfort when turning or using a key, and how many people were dissatisfied with their current solution. find the opportunity within that market, and then they could narrow down specifically how much money was being spent in that market. And then they could narrow down how much an individual person may pay for their product. Find out who would be the person purchasing their product. Would it be the person affected by this, or would it be someone related to the person affected by this, right? They assessed the opportunity. How big was the market for this? What pain were they easing for them? How many people had this particular pain that they could ease? So, once we've done that, we know how big the market is, but a lot of times the market isn't just you. You're not the only person who sees this opportunity. The opportunity is seen by others, and there's likely to be other people who take advantage of that opportunity, who are able to ease that pain. So someone is doing something similar. Someone is addressing the problem or some aspect of that problem. They are working on that already. So you need to find out who is already in that space, who is already assessing that opportunity, who is already working on easing that pain, right? Who is fixing that problem. And so if we go back to the idea of something for an iPhone or something for a smartphone, we may think, I'll make a phone case. There's a lot of people with phones. I did my research. There is an enormous opportunity there. There's an enormous amount of people who break their devices. I will make a phone case. But then I want to know a little bit about my competition. So I searched for iPhone cover on Amazon, and it promptly returned 50,000 results. Right? There's 50,000 other people who are already trying to take a portion of that opportunity to turn that pain into some kind of solution, into some kind of gain. So I need to identify what portion of that market is already covered, right? What portion of that market can you be a part of? What is the opportunity that remains? What was the overall opportunity? What is the opportunity that remains from the competitors if you can't take anything from them? What is the opportunity if you could potentially take part of the business? Right? So here's an example of someone who's entering a market with relatively few competitors. It's Happy Heart Cart. And Happy Heart Cart goes to hospitals, and they help to provide some therapeutic practices that help to improve patient outcomes by giving patients in the hospital things to do so that they're not just sitting around waiting for recovery. They can actively engage by having some stimulating therapy and doing some activities that help them to just work through their stay in the hospital. So there's not a lot of things to compete with this. So their opportunity was large because there's a lot of people in hospitals looking for something to do, but there's not a lot of options for them to do that may be reasonable for them, right? So their competition would be things like local stores or gift shops. There's a lot of opportunity there, but there's also a lot of opportunity left when you consider the competition, right? No one gets terribly excited about it. So we're going to do an activity in a second, but I wanted to let one of our previous difference maker winners come up. And so George, if you wanted to come up and tell us about how you assess the opportunity and just tell us what Iron Legion does, that would be fantastic. So let's give George a round of applause.
Hey guys, you guys hear me? Awesome. So one of the biggest things is that you have to realize that the market dictates, right, how much you're worth, right? So if the market thinks you're worth zero, you're worth zero, and unfortunately there's nothing that can really change that, all right? Now, the market for everyone, right, is a customer, right? Someone who's willing to pay, right? So for us, when we were first assessing our ideas, we were going out and what we were doing was, or what we were aiming at doing, was helping police and fire departments obtain drone technology and learn how to use it effectively, all right? We didn't know how we were going to do that. We just knew that that was the problem, right? That police and fire departments, they needed situational awareness, and that drone tools were our solution to providing them. So we went and we talked to a bunch of police officers, over 100 police officers. Then we went to the fire departments, and we talked to a bunch of firefighters, I think twice that amount, right, 200 or so. Right? And they all said, we absolutely love the drones, we need the drones, and we need them now, right? Great, awesome, this was amazing, right? Everyone's saying, we love this, we need this now, right? There's a problem though, right? So there's a difference between the worker bees and the queen bee who holds the checkbook, right? So I was talking to a lot of consumers, right? The consumers of the, what I was going to offer them, a service, a consultation service. And in actuality, when you start talking to the queen bees, they're like, ooh, this stuff is really nice. And then you're like, well, will you give me a check? I don't know where my checkbook went. I'm sorry, right? So, this is something noticing about it, it's, when you're doing your surveys, make sure that you're talking to the people who are actually going to be paying for the service, all right? As much as we'd like to do everything on a pro bono basis, right? The problem is that, funds are the lifeblood of any business. And without funds, the boat's not going to float. So when you're assessing market opportunity, that's incredibly important. That's definitely a lesson that we had to learn very early on, right? And our battle became trying to find the person who has the money, right? And, tactfully, saying like, it's great that we're talking with you, but I really need to talk to your boss instead, right? So for a lot of markets, that's in where I was working in. It's considered business to government, so that's a B2G market. B2B is pretty much the same way. If you're selling business to business, so your business is providing a service for another business, all right? And for business to consumer, well, guess what? You luck out. Everyone is both the worker bee and the queen bee, unless you're dealing with children, in which children don't pay for things themselves, generally. So, yeah. All right. So.
That's a really great distinction from someone who had to find it out on his own, right? It's important to know that you both need to assess the opportunity of people who may want to use the service versus people who are willing to pay for that particular service, to relieve that pain. And so it's important to assess the opportunity of both of those potentials, right? So let's try that now. Take the answers that you've already put down about your problem and maybe look up for a second or think about what you think the opportunity is for your particular problem. You don't need to think about the solution yet. You just need to identify what the opportunity is. So get a sense of who you may need to talk to or where you may need to get the information to assess the opportunity for your problem. Who has the particular pain that you're trying to relieve? How big is the number of people who share that? How big may be the number of people who are willing to pay for a solution to that pain? What is the opportunity? What is the size of the problem you're trying to solve? So take a minute to think about that, and then we'll have some people present what they think their particular opportunity size is. So I'm actually really curious about this. What led you to this idea?
Market opportunity is actually what we got.
Yes. No, the first time was just like any kind of problem. This time was assessing opportunity. Yes, the idea that you were thinking about the first time, this time you're going to figure out what the potential is. Have that problem solved. That's it. Yeah, it could be Baker Faculty Fellows. So our first group is working on a project called Scribble Nuts, and they are going to... Scribble Nuts. Oh, Scribble Notes. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. It is not an app related to sports.
No, it's not.
All right.
Very much.
All right. Here, is the microphone. I'm happy to hold that for you. That is what I provide. So let us know about your opportunity.
So first, before we talk about the opportunity, the problem that we're trying to solve is that notebooks, they are specifically designed for reading and writing learning styles, and they don't, that's it. It's just for reading and writing. And it doesn't help any students that have any other kind of learning style. So specifically for students with language-based learning difficulties, like dyslexia and ADHD and stuff like that. So our notebooks provide structured doodles around the margins of the page so that they can color in and still take their notes. So it combines kinesthetic and visual learning styles into a notebook. So the opportunity for it is that we've actually already have a survey out, and so far out of 100 results, we came up with 80.77% still use notebooks to take notes, and out of that 80.77%, 57.69 of them doodle in their notebooks. So so we're still, this survey is still out, but this is what we've got so far. So it's leaning towards the fact that we do have a decent sized market.
All right. Thank you so much.
If you guys ever wanted to take the survey too.
Yes, if you want to take the survey, I strongly suggest it. You come to see us after.
Yeah, we put it on 2 laptops.
We got it on 2 laptops. Take it before you leave.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You can be a part of their opportunity, right? That's fantastic. That's a great way to assess your opportunity. You can research it in the library and looking it up, but you can also go to the people you think would be interested and ask them about your idea. So who would like to tell us about their opportunity next? Yeah. All right. Yes, perfect. I'm happy to hold it up. So, let us know about your problem and the opportunity you think that exists within it.
Okay, so our problem is the long lines at the grocery store, and pretty much we are trying to help people who are in a hurry that just need to grab something and be in and out. And we've already done a survey, and more than 50% of people say they would rather not have to wait in lines, and more than 60% of people said it would be great if they never had to wait in lines again. And pretty much we looked at all our competitors, and pretty much it's Amazon Go, HelloFresh, Blue Apron, like meal delivery. And most of what we realized is that that's mostly delivery service, and then a lot of people do not want their to buy their groceries online. So this will help businesses compete with Amazon, and also help people who want to just be in and out of their stores. So that's
all right. Thank you.
Also, we also have a survey if you want to take it.
You can be a part of so many ideas. And, maybe if there's enough, you'll have to wait in line, and then you'll really empathize with the project. All right. One more group. Who else would like to tell us about their opportunity? Yeah. All right. So I am happy to hold up if you want. And then
Hi. So our project is about creating a social media platform for just you, Maslow student. And the problem we found is students use a lot like other social media, but there is no platform for just UMS students. So it's hard for a new student or a freshman who are new to the school can make friends or find connection in the school. So so far, those numbers we got is in different years, but that's the best we can do right now. So in 2018, there's 18,000 total enrollment in to use much slower. So this could be our opportunity because the new students may need a platform to like learn more about the school and make friends, like something like that. And also in 2017, there were 1,000, like approximately 2,000 freshmen who also may use this platform. And we also found that there a lot of international students came from other countries. It's about 12% out of state undergraduates in the school, and there was 50% of transfer students out of all the undergraduate students. So that means there are a lot of students may need a community to like a platform to interact with other students in school. Yeah, thank you.
That is a tremendous amount of research they did in a very short period of time. That is fantastic. They have clearly assessed what the opportunity is for their product, and then they can use that information to make sure that they target the right market within that, and make sure that they provide some kind of gain for the people within that opportunity. They solve the problem for the portion of the opportunity that wants it to be solved, the students. So you'll notice that I left something off up here, and that's going to be what is your competitive differentiator. So now that we have some idea as to what your opportunity is, you know what your problem is, and you've realized somewhat the scope of the opportunity is, it's time to start thinking about how you might be different. What is your value proposition? What makes you different from competition? If you're going to make a store that doesn't have lines, how is your store without lines going to differentiate you from Amazon's store without lines? If you're going to make a social media app, how will that be different from the standard social media apps? And so, before we get into the value proposition, if you want some help with identifying your opportunity, the best thing you can do is go out and talk to people who may be affected by your problem. So surveys are a great way to do that, physically walking around and talking to them. You can also talk with any of the difference maker faculty fellows or staff. We're always here to help you. And then if you need to just do some scholarly research on your topic, there's a contact for Donna Mullen in the library as well. All of these people are here to help you further your idea. So, this is what we've done so far. We have identified our problem and we have assessed the opportunity. But now Dr. Shortland is going to help us to work on our value proposition. So let's give him a round of applause. He will help us to differentiate the
No, you have to change the zero slides.
Alright.
All right, hello everybody, how are we doing? Good, there we go, right. Gonna clean this off. Thanks Brent, appreciate that. Could have got me a board marker, but don't worry about it.
Paper towels behind it.
Ah, well, oh yeah, I see that now, too late. All right. Okay, so my name is Neil. I'm a psychologist, and I specifically study decision making. Now, why I have stood in front of you today with that background is because at some point, in order to be successful, you need to convince somebody to make a decision to use your product. Now, how many of you are psychologists? One. Hi, how you doing?
I'm not good at psychology. I take care of
Okay, well that's more than most psychologists have ever done, so congratulations. You'll be just fine. But no, right, there is a science to getting people to make the decision that you want. And that is what differentiates companies who are able to convince people to use them, and companies that have an equally good idea, everything Brent was talking about, an equally good idea that is equally rational and equally important, yet nobody picks them up and does them. Now, the problem here is that it is your job to convince me that your product is worth my time. Which means you have to communicate your value very, very clearly. And to make things more important, the bits that you leave out, so bits that you don't tell me, my mind will make up. Now, what is the human status quo when it comes to making decisions? What is the basic decision that we make more than any other decision around? What?
Don't do anything.
Don't do anything.
Just sit still.
No, it is. It is. The human default is the status quo. How many times today have you seen something that you want to do, that might be good to do, that you probably should do and makes sense for you to do, but you don't do it? I do it every single day. Yeah? Why? It happens, right? What else is going on? No time. Right, what else? It's easy. Okay, why else might I do something? What else would stop me doing something? Money. Money? Money stops me doing things? Arguably. Sometimes. What do you think? Being lazy? Yes, being lazy stops me from doing things. What else?
Knowledge.
Knowledge, as in?
Like, you don't know enough of materials like that.
Don't know enough about the outcomes, don't know enough about the process, right? All of these things. Okay, if I'm going to make a decision, what is the fundamental, we'll change it in a moment, but the fundamental equation that I will calculate is what? Benefits versus cost. Okay? What is going to make me do something? Which one of those has to win? Right? That makes sense to everybody, right? The rational actor model, benefits have to be greater than my costs. If you want me to do something, there is no way that I'm going to do anything that the cost is greater than the benefit. Now, in your products, we're going to start this off pragmatically, then we're going to move it a little bit more psychologically. What are the costs that you are asking of people? What are some of the costs? What is required of somebody to use your product, to engage with what you're asking for? What's the fundamental one that everybody needs? Money, right? Thank you very much, right? So cost number one is going to be the dollar value. Okay? What is another cost? Huh? Time. Yep, absolutely. Right? Time. What else?
Opportunity.
What?
Opportunity.
In terms of?
Whether you want that specific item or something that else is on the market that might be cheaper.
Okay, so the other cost of using your product is not using another product. If I have a zero-sum pie of time, money, energy, whatever, and I use your app, I'm not using somebody else's app. So I'm losing in that sense. What else? Effort, yeah, effort's a big one. Okay, what else? Yes, at the back.
Space.
Space in terms of?
Like you say, if you install one app, you not have space to install it. Sorry, like how much space do you require?
Sure. Again, I agree with that. Zero sum. What else? What are other costs that could be that are incurred from using your product? Yes, sir.
Transition costs.
What do you mean transition costs?
So the cost of transitioning from a competitor service to your service.
Okay. I really wish I'd not written in a long line. Okay. What about? This is a big one. Uncertainty. If you're promising things that are not immediate and have any degree of risk, then one of the biggest costs is uncertainty. Now, what are the benefits here? What are the benefits of some of our products? Time, in terms of?
Saving time. Right?
Saving time. Okay, so you can increase time, right? What else? Yeah, you can increase your money. What else?
Efficiency.
Increase my efficiency. What else? Yes, sir. Yeah, sure. What am I making easier? Their life? Just generally? It's very philosophical of you, yes? Making life easier, yeah, always very nice. What else? Huh? Certainty, the opposite of uncertainty. Yes, you can increase certainty. Okay. What else? productivity. All right, okay, these are all tangible activities. Right, okay. Now, what is going to happen, or what is the problem with just listing costs and benefits just like this? If I ask all of you right now to list on one arm, one hand of the page, benefits, other side of the page, costs, all of you are going to very, very easily have a benefit column that is bigger than the cost column. Does that make sense? Everyone does, right? Otherwise your product sucks. Like, legitimately no one has a product that has more cost than benefits that you openly admit to. That's just a disaster. But why is that still not enough? Why is a good cost-benefit analysis not enough? Okay, they go hand in hand. What else? What do humans do that that equation doesn't show? They do what? Prediction? No. Do we make decisions that way? We don't make rational decisions, do we? So if we don't, yes sir, what do you think? I think, yeah, we're getting there. I think you've got the segues aspect. I think you've got the question of, why do I spend $600 on a dinner that I could spend $100 on? Why do I have an iPhone, not a Samsung? Why will I Uber all the time, right? All of these social elements, right? But it comes into something. No, I like this. It comes into something. When we, okay, is that a hand or half a hand? It's a hand now, isn't it? Okay, what do you do, mate?
I was really deciding.
Uh-huh.
We have to take into account how people feel.
Okay.
You have to take into account how people feel when you make a decision.
Okay.
So if they're happy, you might make some random decision.
Okay, yes, their mood will change things, but you can't really control that. Now, very, very quickly, right. In terms of decision-making theory, we gave up on that model a long, long time ago because it just doesn't match the world, right? We don't go around making every decision to maximize our benefit. We don't go around making every decision to minimize our cost. Now, what we decided or realized as humans was that there is a model called subjective expected utility and subjective expected cost. Now, what that opens up is it means that these actuals are actually estimated by what people think. And they're affected and biased by humans. Okay, let me give you an example, very, very clear example. Right, so with the, I don't want to call it a man bun, it is a man bun, but what's your name, mate? With your name though, that can't be Lewis, right, okay. What is your benefit? Right? Your benefit is money. Correct? Okay. Right, now, if I am going to say, well, that's a net benefit, and you're talking about that if I retire now or in the future, right, my net cost will be millions. Right? We're doing great here. What's my immediate cost?
Your immediate cost of survival?
Yeah, well, no, what's my immediate cost that I have to give you to make millions in my retirement?
Oh, how much does the product cost?
Product cost, yeah, how much am I investing?
Subscription based, so probably $5 a month.
Okay, $5 a month, right, nominal cost, at the promise of $1 million in the future, right, let's say. 15 million in the future. Oh, okay, this gets even better. Now, here's the problem. On paper, $5 every month, right, with 15 million return, it's very rational, isn't it? Why is that not going to be rational to me?
Because $5 on your phone seems to be purchased.
Because of?
Social norms or something.
Not because of time. Because of delayed discounting is the #1 predictor of the value of money. $10 to me now will be taken over $100 in a year every single time. So that's what I mean by subjective expected utility, is a human calculates the costs and a human calculates the benefits of what you're trying to sell them. Now, I'm going to end with one more little input, and then I'm going to pass this over to you to try and frame this in your own way and put this down on paper. Now, one thing that we know drives decisions is values. So when I say value proposition, I use it in two different ways. So a value is something that you hold dear, that you believe in. It can be religious, it can be spiritual, it can be whatever it is, right? There are sacred values that are very important. There are secular values that really don't mean anything. Now, where I study things, those values usually involve kind of taking lives and not taking lives. But here, what it means is if you want someone to make the decision to use your product, you need to tap into a value that is more important to them than anything else. So again, Lewis, if I can borrow you one more time, what value are you selling me?
Value would be like immediate security and future security.
So security.
Yeah.
Right? Right, no, that's fine. But it is, isn't it? That's what you're selling me. It's stability, it's security, it's a lack of worry. Okay? Who else has a product? I am Legion, what do you sell? What's your value? What are you selling me?
I would say savings and time.
No, not values.
Is that?
Not a value. Go ethereal. Go big.
Big?
What is one thing that you are selling me? Your little drones are flying around. It's a terrible impression of what you do, but your little drones are flying around. Yeah? What's that?
So security.
Security, maybe?
For the, well, so basically it's security of knowing that when they're making their purchases, they're going to be making informed decisions.
No, it's not a value, buddy. Not a value. All right, let me give you another one. Operation 250, one 2 years ago. Educational non-profit. Does everything for free and has to convince the US government to give them money. What is their value? What are they selling? They go into classes, they teach about online safety and security, and currently they've secured over $1 million. What are they selling? They don't take any money for their product. They don't take any money from teachers. What do they sell? How do they get you to care? How do they get the judges to care? It wasn't on a cost-benefit analysis because they lose every time. But they sold something bigger than themselves.
They're selling peace of mind or comfort. You can relax and know that everything is okay because this is taking care of something that frightens you.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe some fear assuaging. I think they basically did the purity of children, is what I think they actually sold. That by letting us into your classrooms, kids can grow up safe, kids can grow up stable, and kids can grow up without being influenced by negative things on the internet. That's the message that they tapped into. That's why I choose an iPhone over a Samsung, right? You say social north, but it's a value. There's something in it that means more to me than anything else. So even when the cost-benefit analysis is there, you have to know the value, because it can override it. That's why everybody buys iPhones that are more expensive than they need to be, right? The value drives it. But if you don't have it very, very clear, it's very, very hard to make people do things, because people don't do things on the cost and the benefit. Difference makers teams, time and time and time again, are bamboozled that they don't win when their idea makes so much sense on paper. And it's because people don't make pure decisions on benefits and costs. There is a humanistic algorithm, and you need to tap into it by working out what really matters to the people that you're selling it to. Because if you can work out what really matters, then the cost doesn't matter as much to them. Because they're more willing to accept a cost when they value something more. If you this is going to be a very, very bizarre example. If you study suicide bombers, they will happily commit suicide because they value their religion enough. If you look at soldiers, and this is what I do, this is who I interview, soldiers will happily risk their life and the lives of others because they value protecting another soldier more than themselves. So you can get people to do things, but be very, very clear on what and why you want them to do it. Don't get lost in the details. Don't get lost in trying to convince them that the benefit outweighs the cost. Think bigger. Think more emotional. I'm going to give you, how long have we got, Brent?
15 minutes.
We've got 15 minutes, right. Very, very simple. I just want you to outline the benefits, outline the costs, and try and pin down the value, the sell, right? That thing that you're preaching to that's bigger than all of the costs combined. I'll go around the room, Brent will go around the room. Iron Legion, you thought of a value yet? Iron Legion, he doesn't, this is why he's got no value. Your hands up, what do you want? Hands up.
Oh, yeah, I want a second swing at it.
You want a second swing? All right, hit me.
Is it,
Don't say is it, it's your product. You should know.
Well, I'm trying to get what you were looking for. So, if you use service, and your officers are less likely to get shot.
That's what I would go with. I would go with the life of an officer. Because to a police organisation, the life of an officer means more than money. Think about it that way. Think about things that mean more than money. For you, it's stability or security, whatever it is. For different products, it's different things. But have your cost-benefit analysis, because you need to let everybody know, you need to have that in your head. What am I asking of you? What am I giving you? But really good salesmen and really good pitches, they sell something bigger than all of that combined. Right, get to it. You've got 15 minutes. I'll be around the room. Oh,